Ridiculous. Okay, here we go.
There you go.
I have a little slideshow that I put together. I'm only going to do a couple of the slides and then we'll jump back out of this. I hope you appreciate the open mic size tab put on there. It's good. Got the date right and everything. Our agenda, kind of like talk around announcements. I've got a calendar of upcoming astrological events, and then we're just going to jump right into it. Uh, there are some charts if we get bored and we need to look at something. So here's the major upcoming astronomical / astrological events. New moon tomorrow, 20 Scorpio 44, plus 7 exact major aspects, and the moon will be going out of bounds south. So, um, beware Monday the 13th. Is that somebody joining? Okay, 14th, Tuesday, Mercury goes out of bounds south. Friday, Mars and Sun will both make waning water trines to retrograde Neptune. And then we have the Sun-Mars conjunction at 25 Scorpio 37, the Cazimi, which usually strengthens the planet. Normally, when a planet is close to the sun, they're burnt out and they're weaker. But when they are Cazimi, that is crossing the sun, they become much stronger. Saturday the 18th, moon returns in bounds. Next Monday, the sun will be going void of course. And then Wednesday, it enters Sagittarius. And then Mars goes void of course as he chases the sun into Sagittarius. Here's the good news for everybody. I'm sure you're all looking forward to this. On the 25th, which, 2 weeks, Saturday, Mercury will be entering their shadow. Hang on, let me see if we got some people to enter.
Well, what are called jinx aspects, there's the Mars squares next Saturday.
Yeah. There we go. Okay, so then, so Mercury is going to, at 2211 Sagittarius, it enters their shadow. On the 26th, the moon goes out of bounds north. Then on the 27th, we have the full beaver or frost moon. Full moon at the moon at 4 Gemini 51. On November 28th, Mercury's going to go void of course before moving into Capricorn on the 1st. For those of you if anybody who's sensitive to the gnarly inconjunct quincunx aspect, there's going to be 3 of them on the 29th. December 1st, Mercury enters Capricorn. On December 3rd, Venus will go void of course, and there will also be 3 inconjunct quincunx aspects. And then on the 4th of December, Venus enters Scorpio. On the 6th, Neptune will finally station direct. December 9th, we have a Venus opposite Jupiter. And on the 10th of December, we have our December meetup, and we'll be taking a look ahead at 2024. Here's a list of some possible topics that people had suggested for future meetups. North Node, chart midpoints, decans and degrees or decanates, transits, astrology in the houses, specifics on the different signs, astrocartography, dreams, dominance by house sign or planets, transit rhythmograms. Well, thank you for that one. I didn't even know what they were, so I had to look it up. And there's a brief explanation of what it is. So, okay, so now there's our open mic, and we're going back to here we all are. 1, 2, 3. Only 9. Yes, Mark. Go for it, Mark.
Hi. I wanted to know if you had a chance to check in on my theory that I described to you about doing your diurnal chart for the entire week and then checking the positions on your diurnal chart against your natal midpoints to see what interesting things happen to you on those days?
The answer, have I had time? Yes. Have I done it? No. Um, I a little too mutable. I tend to get distracted a lot. Sorry about that. But yeah, I know it's an interesting. Yeah, you want to go through that in a little more detail, Mark?
Yes. So I kind of discovered this by accident fairly recently. I've been doing my diurnal chart for quite some time. And I never thought too much about it, but then I thought, well, I wonder if any of those um, planets in my diurnal are hitting any of my natal midpoints and if that has any meaning for me on those days. And I have noticed a correlation between them. And so um, I found it kind of an exciting discovery because I have never seen that written or discussed or described anywhere else before. But basically, I just take a notepad and turn it sideways, and I write down the days of the week on it for the upcoming week starting on Monday. And I write down my diurnal positions, which I get from astro.com. And I write it out for every single day of the week. And then if any of those positions also are in my natal midpoints, something happens. It could be something to do with business because I am self-employed. And in that case, I notice an aspect to my ascendant and also my midhaven and things like that. It's just very interesting. So I would like to encourage all of you who might be interested in seeing if there's any correspondence there for yourselves. As long as you have an accurate birth time, it will work. If you don't have an accurate birth time, of course, it, stuff to do with your ascendant, your midhaven, whatever, can be off slightly. So anyway, that's the theory and that's it.
Thank you, Mark. Yeah, thank you for reminding me of that because I had started to look at it and then got, of course, unfortunately sidetracked by whatever else. Yeah, life. You know what? My life was not this busy when I was working. Retirement, you better be prepared for it because you're going to be busier and you know what to do with, unless you have absolutely nothing in your life when you retire. Uh, okay. Well, was that my hand? No. Yes. All right. Okay. So what I might actually do is work with it a little bit and maybe we'll schedule it for a coming meetup. I'll send stuff out about it and get people going on it. Thank you, Mark. Let's see. Connie, you had asked about Saros series.
Yes. I've been studying them and trying to wrap my head around what all the numbers mean. Took me a minute to get to understand that it takes 18 years to go from, I guess, point A back to point A.
Yes.
But then there's the whole 1220 years. So I guess that cycle repeats for like 1200 to 1500 years.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, it consists of around 72 solar eclipses.
Okay. And how many lunar eclipses?
Well, that's the lunar eclipses generally are not considered that they don't really coincide with the Saros series.
Okay.
But you'll have probably about the same number of lunar eclipses because normally, I mean, you get a solar eclipse, you get a lunar eclipse.
Right.
Sometimes you'll get three eclipses. Usually it'll be a solar lunar solar, though it's possible to get a lunar solar lunar. But yeah, but typically
The thing I'm having trouble really understanding is how do you know exactly when it's a new cycle? It's like, okay, so supposedly this last eclipse we had was on Saros 130, right?
Uh-huh.
So, okay, let's just say for sake of argument, we had one several cycle start today, and then another one start a year from now. So how do you know that it's the one that starts a year from now is a whole new cycle and not just part of the one that started today?
You have to look on the best place to find it is probably the NASA website on eclipses, because they will tell you, they'll provide the Saros number and they'll indicate whether it's a new one or not starting. What'll typically happen too is a new one starts before the old one ends.
Okay.
So, um, yeah, and it's always going to start with an eclipse. It starts with the solar eclipse and it ends with a solar eclipse. But there will be an overlap uh, when it transitions from the old series to the new series. Bernadette Brady, in her book, uses a different system. She goes north and south with numbers rather than strictly just straight numbers. And that's kind of, in some ways, it makes it a little easier because you can tell whether it's a north lunar node eclipse or a south lunar node eclipse, because that's what the north and south refer to. But she'll also identify them by new or old.
If I could also add something here, there is
Yes.
an excellent website called Time and Date. And Connie, you can go on there and see when all of the upcoming eclipses are, and also where they have been in the past, if you're interested in tracking eclipses.
So is that timeanddate.com?
I believe it is timeanddate.com. Yeah,
Okay.
they have a section on there for
As far
about eclipses.
as far as their consequences, I think I would defer to the financial astrologers like book, when they have an impact, say when it comes to commodities or the financial market.
Okay.
Yeah. There are a few good books about eclipses and how to track them, evaluate them. Um,
Let me grab one I'm looking at and so you can tell me what you think of this one.
mhm.
And while she's stepping away, I'll do a little concept that I hardly ever hear other astrologers mention, and it only appears to be in one book published in the 70s, and the phrase is planets in containment. So do whatever you can and even annoy any publishers who published that originally. Planets in containment. It was two authors. One of them was named Sandbach. I forget the other author's name. But
Yeah, it's an
those of you
interesting
who've
book.
been around back since the 70s, that
Hmm.
book is one gem that, you know, if you aren't an old astrologer and you don't have that book from the 70s, you don't know what I'm talking about.
Um, yeah, containment is
Well,
basically where would typically like if you have a stellium, would be the most easiest thing to visualize. It's the planet in the middle,
Right.
but
I
it
do
And
can
have
since
this book.
sequence,
go ahead, Andrew. I'm sorry.
the planets in containment are in sequence. So it's sort of like a midpoint, but it's not.
Hmm.
It's just
Yeah,
strictly in sequence, regardless of how many degrees arc between the three planets.
yeah, yeah. To visualize it, it's easiest with a stellium, but yes, it actually has it's any planet between two,
Every
it's
trio,
going in
regardless,
sequence.
yeah,
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 just start in sequence
as
and
if
see
they
where.
were rising. You go in the sequence as if they were rising.
Hmm. Yeah.
Well, I
We
do
actually
have this
talked
book
about
from
that a while back, maybe a couple of years ago. Okay, Connie, your book.
the 80s. I just bought it, but I think it's from the 80s. It's called Interpreting the Eclipses. by Robert Carl Jansky. I mean, have you ever read or heard of that one?
Jansky, yeah.
Yeah, Chansky's very
Yeah.
famous.
Jansky's
Well,
older astrologer, so yeah, it's good.
well,
It seems to be
didn't
pretty good.
he used to live in Los Angeles, Jansky?
Yeah. Um, the one that gives you the most information is probably Bernadette Brady's book, um, titled "The Eagle and the Lark." It's also got another title to it. She
Believe
goes
I
through. She she actually goes through and identifies all of the currently active eclipse cycles, Zero series, and when the first one was, when the last one will be, and tells you a little bit of, gives you a little meat or definition or explanation of what the cycle is about based upon the aspect from the very first eclipse in that Zero series. And she also identifies them as new and old, which helps. So
I believe I have that book, but I think it's been retitled Predictive Astrology.
yeah, that's the other title for it, predictive astrology. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I know that I think my prenatal eclipse was, I think, maybe the second. I think it was the second one in that second or third in the new Saros series. So
Hmm.
yeah, it's
When you say
yeah,
new,
what was it the Babylonians, I think, that figured out that the eclipses run in what they were the ones that came up with the idea that identified the Saros series or cycles, how they reappear in families and gradually move um, across the earth, which is not an easy thing to do because most solar eclipses are only visible. Well, solar eclipses are only visible in a relatively small part of the world, and so yeah, it takes a long time to. You have to observe a lot of them before you can figure out that there's actually some rhythm to it, and unless you're living, you get contacts around the world. So it's quite remarkable that they were able to do that. Uh,
when you say new, what do you mean? Like 5 years old or 500 years old?
um,
Because I'm thinking in
well,
the grand scheme of time, 500 might be considered pretty new.
yeah, the new ones. Well, the new is the beginning of a new series.
Mhm.
And remember, they only occur every 18 years and change. So
Mhm.
the first
But
one,
yeah, but
the
you
second
said
one's going to be 18 years later.
you were born during a new one. I'm just wondering how old it was.
Um, Now let me see. I can tell you. I think, where do I want to go? I want to go over here. I want to go over here. I want to change this. See. Um, yeah, my prenatal was okay, there we go. Yeah, see, uh, to New North. It was one of those where like in Bernadette Brady's book, if you're looking it up. It was one of those where there was a solar eclipse, then a lunar eclipse, then a solar eclipse right after it. So you had um, a new moon solar eclipse, and then the next full moon was a lunar eclipse, and the next new moon was another solar eclipse. And that, uh, so the earlier one was the old True North, and the second one was the new North, to New North. And that's how she'll identify them in her book.
Okay, interesting. Yes, I'm just now starting to study eclipses, so I'm
Hmm.
interested in anything I can learn.
Well, what I would suggest is identify all the eclipses between uh, that occurred prior to your birth, starting with conception to birth. Start there. And most astrologers, if they deal with prenatal eclipses at all, they're only talking about they'll talk about the solar eclipse closest to, but prior to your birth, and maybe the lunar eclipse as well. What is it? The solar eclipse is what we come in to teach, and the lunar is what we come in to learn, or something, or the other way around, something like that. That's how they give a general definition of them. But if you think about the reality of astrology, what it signifies, and you think of the fact that um, well, your mother was experiencing these eclipses, all of these eclipses while she was, pregnant with you, then you really should take a look at all of them because they're all going to affect her and that affects you.
There was a really good lecture that Chris Brennan and Nick Dagan Best did very recently on eclipse cycles, but not looking at, well, yes and no personal astrology, but like the history of eclipses. It's like a 3-hour lecture. It's up on YouTube under their astrology podcast.
And what's their name?
It's called The Astrology Podcast, and Chris Brennan runs it, and he's been a diligent researcher and writer for at least a decade.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very well-known podcast, and it's interview with Nick Dagan Best, who's also just produced something like a database of 20,000 charts of individuals, which also show their nodal axis, and it's really the history of eclipses from traditional astrology forward, and many case studies that are really, really excellent, and it's very comprehensive, Connie. I think you'd love it if you want to dive into that.
Like most everything in astrology, depending on who you talk to, you'll get different opinions on the significance of eclipses and which ones to use.
Okay. Well, does
In
it
the-
matter? Does it matter if okay, like people's like, okay, we get grouped by our sun signs, moon signs, whatever. Is there anything about grouping people based on their prenatal eclipse?
Um,
Because I'm just noticing that my husband and I, we were born like 7 months apart, but we still have the same prenatal solar eclipse because it occurred right before the day I was born. And of course, he was born a few months later, so there wasn't another one. So I'm thinking, a
in
lot.
7 months there ought to be,
Mm.
because they occur approximately every 5.5 months.
Well, let's see. I was born in February. He was, okay, no, we were 5 months apart. I was born in February. He was born in July. And I just looked it up and I noticed that during that period, there was only the eclipse that was right before the day I was born, which was February. I was born February 17th. There was a total solar eclipse in Aquarius, which is my sign, on February 5th. So I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And of course, since his sign is opposite mine, that means the solar eclipse occurred opposite. It almost occurred. It was pretty near conjunct my sun, but it was opposite his sun. So I'm just trying to figure out if there's something to all that.
Yes, that's your simple answer. But yeah,
Okay.
you'll have to figure it out just what it might be. But yeah, um, for myself, I found that the degree of the solar eclipse that occurred right before my birth, which was it's actually 6 Cancer, uh, was the degree of the solar eclipse, my prenatal solar eclipse, has been kind of a sensitive degree for me. So that's something else to look at, is sensitive points within your chart. Sometimes, you're looking at transits or whatever, and you see, and things are happening, or people come into your life, or and you can't quite figure it out what's going on because it doesn't seem to fit your chart. Look at the position of prenatal eclipses to see whether or not they're creating sensitive points that can cause or signify something coming up, or something or someone coming into your life. There was a period when a lot of I met a lot of people that were early cancers, which is where my prenatal solar eclipse was. And that was the only thing I could figure out that was going on.
Jim,
Yes.
my prenatal eclipse was on Pluto, for what it's worth. And I have to say this, my life was full of Plutonian adventures. But I think a lot of people might have had that. That's always bothered me, but it was it was a very poignant way of looking at what I came into with my chart itself. What do you think?
Yeah, I think if it's very significant. I think if you have a prenatal eclipse that occurs on a natal point, obviously any eclipse that occurs after you're born that hits a natal point is going to be significant. It's going to, that's going to, because it's either a new moon or it's a full moon, and so they're always significant. They're going to be more significant if they, if they occur on a natal point, um, a secondary progress point, or even a solar arc point. Perhaps a bit less so with the solar arc secondary progress points, unless there's other things going on, kicking things into action. So yeah, you're kind of looking to see how many things are activating that point at any given time.
Mm.
Does your Pluto make any parallels or contra parallels?
Uh, I don't have that particular declination stuff in my chart memorized like I should have. Uh, uh, I can remember only that I have several points about to go out of bounds, but they don't make it, which is something I always lamented.
Talking about groupings to make a tangent, in the 70s, I came across a little book of astrological records. And what was insane, and I'm sure this was a man-made grouping, but every German general and admiral over a 200-year period had their birthday in autumn. Fall, autumn,
Yeah,
Libra, Scorpio, or Sag over 200 years. Every German general or admiral over a 200-year period, Libra, Scorpio, or Sag.
I have.
Interesting.
I'm sure that was man-made grouping.
Yeah.
I have. I'm October 7th. There was a war on my last birthday. Uh, thank you for that.
Yes, Spencer, your Pluto and Mars are parallel
Parallel. Okay.
natally,
Okay.
just as an FYI. Okay. What's next? Who wants to ask who's got another question? Something you want to talk about? Connie, got anything else just about the eclipses or?
No, I don't want to hog up all the time, so I'll let other people talk.
Okay. Hi,
I have,
Cornelia.
I have, I have a, I have a question. Has anybody heard about the Aries vortex?
Aries.
Aries vortex?
Yeah, I picked it up from Ray Merriman. Anyway, he's talking about it happens February 21st at 2026. And I did the chart. I want to look at it. Okay, it's because he said it's important because that is an exact conjunction of Saturn and Neptune at 0 degrees Aries.
Ah,
Oh, February 26th. February 2026. Okay.
Right, and
Uh,
it makes makes a sextile to Pluto and to Uranus.
yeah. Uh,
So he said this
interesting.
is a powerful configuration, but who knows what it's going to mean? But that's what he
Yeah.
calls it.
That's
I just wondered if anybody had looked at it or had any comments about it.
No, I remember seeing something about. I noticed it a while back, but hadn't really put too much thought into it yet, only because it's a little ways down the line.
Have you
Yeah,
Googled?
it is, but it just kind of well, what he says is that it indicates a new beginning because it's all at Aries. He's talking about we're moving into that new period.
Have you Googled
Yeah.
that
Wearing
at all? Have you
Use it.
Googled that at all? If you try to Google,
I'm
but I don't
sorry, I
know, but
didn't hear
I
you.
found it when you Google things like that, it pops up. I don't know if it'll pop
Yeah.
up.
Yeah, it's February 20th, 8:51 a.m. LA time at 0 Aries 45 minutes. Now, the last Saturn Neptune conjunction was in 1989 in Capricorn. And that was a three-peat. It happened. There were three conjunctions in 1989, March 3rd, June 23rd, and November 11th, November 13th. But the one coming up in 26 is only going to be it's going to be a one-shot deal. It's a one-time offer, which could lead me into any number of songs, but I won't go there because I. Okay, so that's interesting. Now,
I'm just looking for what he says.
now,
He
okay,
said about
what is hang on, let's see. Do this. Here we go.
I
Animate.
can't find it now.
Oh, James, it's funny while you were, because you had mentioned that there should have been another eclipse before my husband was born, but no, in fact, there was one 4 days after he was born. So we have the same prenatal eclipse, but his was because the next one was 4 days after his birth.
Okay.
Oh yeah, they do come around like every five. Well, I mean, I know you know, but I'm just saying that yeah, they come around every 5 months or so.
Okay. I was just checking. Curious. I looked at the chart for the Saturn Neptune eclipse conjunction, and the Sabian symbol for 0 Aries, or the first degree of Aries, is a woman has risen out of the ocean. A seal is embracing her. Where the heck is Sedna?
Edna's just entered Gemini, I think. Yep, like 0 degrees Gemini right now. Are you talking about then?
Yeah, she'll be 0 7, exactly 0:45 Gemini, which is sextile. So Sedna will be sextiling exactly within a few seconds, probably, the Saturn Neptune conjunction. Chiron will be within a degree of Eris.
Hey, you want to share the chart real quick, Jim?
Oh, yeah, if you really want. Okay, let me.
Some of
see if
us
I
are
can-
visual learners. Anybody else who needs to be a
All
visual
right, all right.
learner,
Hang
like
on. Here we go.
talking the words is like,
Where are
brain
you?
sometimes.
Share screen. There we go.
It's easy. We can unshare at any time.
Okay. Do you see
So
it?
even though
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Um.
Oh, so it'll be Uranus is coming to conjunct Sedna.
so even
Yeah,
though
Uranus is.
Sabian So
Excuse me.
even though Alan Leo came up with Sabian symbols, sitting in a car at Balboa Park in my hometown of San Diego, I was just probably born a few miles away from there at the old Naval Hospital. That someone here in New Mexico Martin Goldsmith has a book, The Zodiac by Degrees. And you might be very impressed by Martin Goldsmith's book, The Zodiac by Degrees, when it comes to comparing his book to Sabian symbols.
Yeah, it's interesting. There are actually several different degree symbol systems, not just the Sabian. The Sabian is
Yeah.
the one that is the most popular today. It's best known. Um, but there are others. Because I have several different books about on them.
Like
Um,
Rudyard's.
well, yeah, Rudyard does tweaks the Sabian symbols.
Hey, let's not forget that Elsie Wheeler channeled them.
Yeah,
She was a
Yeah, they were sitting in the car together at Balboa Park,
yeah. I always want
her
to
and
include her name,
Alan Leo.
Elsie Wheeler.
find it. Here we go. Here we go. Let's. Oh God, what is it called? I've got another one that I have that's
Merrill said this never happened before.
what's
It
never
kind of
happened.
it, the particular configuration that we have here.
Called the Saturn Neptune conjunction at 0 Aries.
Large stellium in Aries.
Yeah, the zero conjunction, but at the same time that the Pluto and the Uranus sextiles make it well, you have Saturn here. Is that Saturn? What is that figure you have next to Uranus?
Sedna.
That's that is Celine Sedna. Excuse me. There we go. I'll get it out.
Oh, okay. Okay.
That is Sedna.
And
Okay. Well, he said this is important because it creates an arrow and nothing just happened like this before. It acts like a cosmic vortex, attracting all this powerful energy. And particularly since it's at the world universal degree, the 0 Aries, he believes it points in the direction of
I mean,
where we're going. He said the only thing that comes close to it is what happened during the Renaissance.
well, that's amazing because what is that? The South Node at Virgo and the North Node at Pisces.
yep.
That's interesting because we're really kind of shifting to hopefully an ecological revolution or renaissance, Cornelia. Like
Right.
if I see Virgo as this apex point of this arrow, is that what you're describing?
Well, the point of the arrow is the 0 conjunction of Saturn and Neptune.
Okay, but they're also making this semi square and oppositions with the stellium of planets in Pisces and Aries. This is really interesting because Pisces is the end of a cycle, Aries is the beginning. And I think about that South Node as kind of the collective intelligence that we can draw from in Virgo, and we desperately need an ecological renaissance.
Right, we do.
That's like my first reading of this entire chart, which goes back to a question, Jim, that someone else asked. What's the first thing you look at when you see a chart? And for me,
Yep.
it's I look at what is there a stellium? What's the cycle? Like Andrew mentioned these 200 German generals that all had autumn birthdays, and that makes sense because it's the season of culling. This is winter, the end of a cycle, Pisces, Aries, the beginning of a cycle, spring. So it's a tremendous change of this huge stellium from old to something new. And Eris is part of it. Eris is the glyph next to Chiron at 24 Aries. So she's part of that overthrow the apple cart, overthrowing. Like it's such an interesting spectrum of all of these planets involved with this. I'm so glad you brought this up, Cornelia. It's fascinating. The sun, our authority or over authority. The north node, our directional arrow. Venus, how we are moving in terms of our relationships, partnerships, love, money, investment. Pisces, in potentially a spiritual direction, Pisces. And oh, you just took the, yeah, it's good to take the fourth planets out for a minute and just go bare bones, and even just go traditional planets for a minute.
Yeah,
too.
I always like to kind of look
Yeah.
at some point I always look at the 10 basic planets to see if they're how things are as far as modes and elements, if there's anything missing.
Yeah.
Um,
But even then, that stellium is pretty fascinating. And
yeah,
trines and squares to Jupiter, retrograde, reflecting in Cancer. Wow. Home,
yeah. Jupiter
family.
is the most aspected planet.
Yeah. And squaring Uranus, sudden out of the blue changes on Earth,
Nobody's out of bounds.
Taurus.
Only Jupiter, and Jupiter's the only one that's retrograde.
Yeah, it's great to see it just with traditional planets, and then with modern planets, and then with asteroids and trans-Neptunian dwarf planets. And the nodes. Thanks for adding that node. I think it's really important. My goodness, with Connie
Okay, and that
about the
comes.
eclipses and the nodes, so important. What are you thinking, Jim?
Move something around here.
Thank you for bringing up this chart, because look at what my brain did as soon as you brought up. Right?
I didn't know I was going to do that. He said the closest things it comes to is the 1400s, the the European Renaissance.
And the invention of the printing press and all kinds of technologies and Galileo.
Okay.
Well, that's what's
Now
going
here's
to happen in the Aquarian age anyway, don't you think?
all right. So, added point is on February 17th there will be a new moon solar eclipse at 28 Aquarius. Notice that Saturn and Neptune are both at zero. They're still at zero Aries. They're within minutes. But you also have Venus conjunct the North Node for the eclipse.
Now that's interesting.
And let's see, 28 Aquarius is butterfly emerging from a chrysalis. Emerging butterfly.
James, I'm sorry. I was fixated on the fact that it's happening on my birthday. What's happening on February? What did you say about 28 degrees?
February 17th, 2026?
Yeah, the eclipse is at 28 degrees.
Yeah, 28 Aquarius.
Oh, okay.
That's squares Saturn. I mean, squares Uranus.
It's going to be exactly conjunct my sun.
Wow, that's something to look forward to.
Yeah.
Plan a
And
good party,
sextile
big party for that one.
And a sextile my Jupiter, which is at 28 Sag 59.
Yeah, I was gonna say, even though it may not be your part of your prenatal eclipse family, it's still gonna be it's gonna be a big one because it's on your sun. So yeah.
Well, has anyone discussed the Uranus square, the eclipse? I had to go get my coffee refreshed. Has anyone
No.
looked at that? Don't
No,
you
not
think
yet.
that's kind of a big deal?
That's about 70 minutes orb.
Well, let's see here. Let's do this. Let's go ahead.
If you put that over Washington, D.C., what does it do? Change it? Very much.
Okay, so here we are. So the eclipse should be at around 4:01 a.m. Wow, that's in Lewiston, Maine, or Lewiston, Idaho. Sorry, Spencer, I was just working from your natal chart, so that's why it comes up that way.
Okay.
Washington time would be 2:01 a.m.
Okay. 2:01 a.m.
Too bad this happens at 4 o'clock in the morning. I won't be able to see it.
And no, we won't. Yeah, we won't see it. It'll looks to be a total one. Hang on, let me do something else here. Oh,
I just
stuff
was
always
going to
keeps
confirm
getting.
that this is the chart. Someone was asking in the chat. This is the chart of the Saturn Neptune conjunction in
Yes.
2026, and this is the first time this has happened since Aries, Cornelia, since 1400s. Is that correct?
Oh, I don't know when that, he just said that the close it came to was the 1400s and the European restaurant, Renaissance. But it wasn't involving four outermost planets like this is.
Okay. Hey, I just
Because
found,
you've got Pluto in there.
yeah, Pluto.
Uranus will be in Gemini. Uranus will be moving into Gemini. And
Let's see.
that trine between Uranus and Pluto goes on for a good while.
Hey, I just looked up the Sabian symbol for 8 degrees Virgo for that south node. And you were talking about the Renaissance and all, art and technology. And the Sabian symbol is an expressionist painter at work.
Mhm.
Could I
Oh,
interview?
I'm expecting that if as we're going into the Aquarian age, that there's going to be a lot of, like I know I'm talking to my son who's interested in the science. He said, in the next 5 to 10 years, we should have nuclear fusion, which will solve all of our energy problems.
Yes. Yes.
And that would be amazing.
Right.
Okay.
There's this move towards like technological transportation without fossil fuels,
If I-
mycology that dissolves radiation and gets rid of pollution. There's like all of this.
Catherine, that's a good point. Could I bring up one point? We
Yeah.
were talking about 14th century. That was when the printing press came into power.
Yep.
And I think in terms of what you were talking about, of the new inventions, changes of a whole society by the distribution of knowledge, and changing everything from who could read the Bible. It's absolutely
It will
spot
get
on.
rid of our climate process.
Yes.
Hmm. Yeah. Mhm. Let's
Wow.
see.
That would be so
Did you
amazing.
did you do it for Washington?
Yeah, I can do it to Washington.
Um,
Here, let me.
Washington
You
D.C.
want to see a bi-wheel
hey,
with the
also,
American chart?
oh,
Look,
sure. I'd like to,
And
if
let me
you
do this.
throw in Sedna and Haumea, because those are two, can you just throw in those
All
two?
right, hang on. Here we
And
go.
giggles.
Let's see.
Hey, Cornelia, who is the author that you're referring to again?
this is a newsletter that Ray Merriman puts out. It's
Right.
called American Market Analysis, and he has a free letter every Monday. So I've been watching it for a long time because he's talking about how it affects the markets, but he always
Right.
comes up with this other great stuff too. And so that one happened to be here because he's
Oh,
always talking about what's coming up in the sky and how it's going to affect the market. But
so
he
he's a
says
financial astrologer?
he's just talking about this Aries vortex, which I never
Ray
heard
Merriman,
before.
yeah.
But he said, well, Ray
Ray is,
Merriman.
yeah, he's one of the preeminent financial market astrologers.
Financial astrologers.
Right.
Yeah.
Someone else who has an annual book when it comes to investing is M.G. Buchholz out of Canada. He has the annual stock market analysis book also.
Well, the reason
Well, he's always interested because he's already written the 2004 forecast for next year. So That means he's been doing a lot of work on,
Here we
what
go.
configurations are coming up.
Right. So USA chart is on the inside, and the Eclipse chart is on the outside.
The
So,
moon's
okay,
a
let's
sure
put in some,
close.
we have requests for other points. Let's see here. Oh, everybody loves him. I'm going to put him in. We'll put in you, and you want Haumea.
The
Let's
reason
see.
why Haumea, so the trans-Neptunian planets, they're indigenous gods and goddess folk tales, and they seem to, and it echoes this moment. They have catastrophic things happen to them, or they're in grave danger. Like Haumea is always saving the husband from being burned at the stake, captured by the guards or the king. He's ready to be executed, and she uses the forces of nature to turn herself into a tree, and he can hide in it, or she'll jump into the fire and disappear with him. He's ready to be burned at the stake, and she escapes with him. Or she uses she's got a magic staff called a Makalai, and she will crack it onto the earth anywhere the earth has been decimated or laid waste by pollution or violence, and the earth will grow again. So my like this idea of using mycology or the wisdom and intelligence of the natural world to heal the ecology, biomimicry. We see this
Unfortunately.
active.
Mhm.
Oh, I could just tell you how Maya's just entered Scorpio, so 0 Scorpio. We could just hold that point if you can't find it.
Yeah, I'm not finding it in my
Andy,
in Solar Fire's listing yet.
but so it's going to be 0 degrees Pisces, which is a partile trine to the Neptune Saturn. That
Okay,
makes
so Haumea should be at 0 Pisces.
Yeah, so that's a partile. Oh no, that's not a partile trine to. Oh,
It's
that's
a semi-sextile.
oh yeah, that's a
Turn
semi.
semi. For those of you who are dancing. Excuse me. Um,
Oh, it's going to trine Venus then
hmm.
at 3 degrees Cancer.
Ah, okay, there we go. Oh, Uranus trining the U.S. Pluto.
Uh-oh. Because a trine is not just always a happy thing. It's a easy flowing, but a Uranus Pluto aspect,
Yeah,
not always
easy, yes. Positive,
because
not
Oh,
necessarily.
it's making a grand trine, isn't it, with Neptune?
Um, yes, it would be a wide grand trine, but a grand trine, Earth grand trine, yeah.
And square the moon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, an exact square to the USA moon. Oh, boy, well, that, it could be that the Pluto returns may come home to roost. Yes, Wave.
No, I'm just looking. I'm trying to
Oh,
make
oh,
the screen a little bit shorter. Very interesting. Uranus, Pluto. Boy, that sounds like fun, doesn't it?
that sure does. Um,
it's going to be a party in America.
Yeah. If we if we can get the right leadership, which I think is a woman this time around next year, it's possible extraordinary things
Yes.
could happen.
Yes.
yeah.
Like Marianne Williamson or Jill, I forgot her last name, running for the
Scott?
Green Party. She's been
No,
doing this
no,
for
that's not.
years. I met both of
Yeah.
those women, by the way.
Yeah, the unfortunate thing is,
Well, Jim, you want to look at the inauguration chart in 95. You could tell a lot about what the administration is going to look like.
okay, we can take a look at
In
that.
95? Why in 95?
25. No, 25.
Because
Oh,
the election
25. Sorry.
is
Yeah.
94,
Oh,
but the inauguration tells you who's coming in and creating this
That's a good
new
idea.
this new administration.
Yeah.
And it's I guess what it is. It's a Pluto conjunct the Sun in Aquarius in the 10th house.
What would be more realistic is Biden croaking in office to be replaced by Kamala.
I think so too, because of in his inauguration, I've just
Are
been
you-
waiting for his inauguration has Pluto right at the midheaven, right at the midheaven. So
Oh,
you
Okay, hang
know,
on,
in
let me do
his
it this
in
way.
his
yeah,
his presidency, something's going to happen.
Okay, hang on.
yeah.
This last one, I don't want it to happen. I actually think he's doing a decent job with his handlers helping him, and they haven't gotten us into too much trouble. But I'd rather
I
see.
think he makes a good transition.
Yes,
I think
that's
Kamala
a
would
nice.
be
So
a
we're going
Yeah.
pistol.
for what was it?
Are we allowed to talk politics on this, Jim? Or
Oh,
is it
sure.
cut
Come
out?
on, we have
That's the
to.
election.
Yes, we have
What?
to.
Yeah, the
It's
January
required.
21st at noontime. Yeah.
Hang on. Let me get everything set straight here.
Do you know what's fascinating? I was just in another group last week and we're talking about Haumea, and I talked about all of these stories about this, and said that they're fascinating stories, and everybody kept talking about really powerful women taking hold. And we're seeing it with Francesca Albanese. She's an advisor, raconteur to the United Nations, really advising quite eloquently how to solve the Palestine crisis. We see two Mexican female presidential candidates. Your only choices are women in Mexico. So many interesting potential possibilities.
Which would lead to a Pluto-Uranus revolution in this country, without question, just by having the woman there in the first place.
Yep.
Without her even doing anything.
Exactly.
Well,
Well, that's why I'm looking
maybe
there.
maybe what all this is about is that, it could be Biden Harris reelected, but then something happens to Biden in 26 and Harris has to take over.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that looks like that will happen. But still,
I-
do you think she would keep the presidency for another? No, they have to vote her in for the next presidency, though.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
she would
No.
only
for
take over.
subsequently. Yeah.
No, if the order of succession, when the president is incapable of performing his duties, the vice president automatically
Yep.
takes over.
Yeah, but it's not much
Yep.
time left. It's not. And she doesn't represent anything new or transformational if we want to
No.
stick to the Uranus Pluto
No.
stuff. She's going to
Well,
be doing the
maybe,
status quo,
yes, but then it's early and maybe we'll end up with a different team for 24. Who knows?
That's
What's
true.
the degree point again of that Pluto Uranus? I lost track.
Uh, Pluto Uranus, the square, you mean, or the trine?
Yeah, that we were talking about in
The
Aries.
trine is from 27 Capricorn to 27 Taurus.
Okay. I was just curious because my sun, Uranus, and Pluto are all within 3 degrees of each other,
Yeah, so this
but
one,
it's like 13 to 16.
oh, here we go. Okay, so the Sabian symbol for 1 Aquarius is an unexpected thunderstorm.
That's my Venus. That's me.
Which,
That's my moon.
Mhm.
Oh, who said that?
Okay.
Who said that's their moon?
That's my nothing.
Spencer said the moon. Spencer said my moon.
Oh,
Um,
it was you. That's cool. So we
but it
have a
does
conjunction. Venus moon. That's very nice.
air trine to Sedna at 0 Gemini.
You have Sedna? Mm. That would be interesting to look at all the female candidates, all 3 of them, with either the inauguration and or the United States chart.
Yeah.
And
we'll
their transits to
Mhm.
see.
Have you heard the rumor that Romney and Manchin are going to turn up for the election as a third party?
No.
I've heard they're looking.
Yeah, they're looking at it.
Oh, so this is
Yeah.
fascinating because the nodes are at 29 degrees. This is a critical anaretic degree. 29 degrees Virgo, the Sabian symbol is totally intent upon completing an immediate task. A man is deaf to any allurement. I have to read for Pisces. So that's the
So look
last.
at the degree for it. Yeah, 29 Pisces. You have to realize how important that is because
I
it'll be
know.
going in.
Well,
That's a
Yeah.
critical degree.
okay,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
check the
I'm checking it. I'm
Sabian symbol for 29 Pisces,
checking it.
What is 29 Pisces? Oh,
the
that's
North
this,
Node.
the North Node. There we go.
The
Mhm.
North Node. Here we go. A
Yeah.
majestic rock formation resembling a face is idealized by a boy who takes it as his ideal of greatness, and as
Mhm.
he grows up, begins to look like it.
Oh my goodness,
Yeah.
that's the most unusual sounding Sabian symbol I've
Uh,
ever heard of.
Well, that's
Sounds like
the
somebody from
modern
the,
interpretation of the Great Stone Face.
yeah.
Oh,
What
oh,
Elsie,
I see.
the
Well, I
original
think the
was the
Great
Great
Stone
Stone
Face is
Face.
you know, the Washington.
Wyoming?
Vermont.
Wyoming, is it?
Yeah,
It's
no,
either
it's not
Vermont or New
Wyoming. Where
Hampshire.
is it?
However,
North
South
Dakota
Dakota. North
or South
Dakota. Yeah.
Dakota.
Or
South
South,
Dakota.
whatever.
Mount
no,
Rushmore. Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
We're not talking about Mount Rushmore.
We're
We're
not?
talking about the Great Stone Face. It
What's
was
that?
a natural rock formation in, I think, Vermont or New
Oh,
Hampshire. Now, the problem is it collapsed right before the Iraq War began in 2003.
Oh, that's right. It's natural. It wasn't formed like
Yes,
Mount
it
Rushmore.
was a natural formation,
Wow.
and they discovered that it had collapsed just before we start, the second Iraq War, whatever you want to call it.
That's very interesting coincidence,
Yeah,
so to speak. Yeah.
yes,
Yeah,
because
would
that
you
was one of the
read
things that
that 29 Pisces
yeah.
Sabian symbol again?
Yes. Let me get it right
it
here.
is the Great Stone Face being the projection of an ideal.
Oh,
There you go.
Okay.
oh, I have this other one, the majestic rock formation resembling a face,
Yes, right.
idealized by a boy who takes it as
Yeah.
his
What
ideal of greatness.
I
And he
think what
grows.
Judith Hill is, I think what Judith Hill has done, and what Dane Rudger did, they kind of updated the definition a little bit from what she had written. I think it looks to me that what Solar Fire uses is basically the original description from Elsie Wheeler based on Mark Edmund Jones.
This is from Cafe Astrology, which is produced. They're taking it directly from Elsie Wheeler.
Mm,
Okay, so that's the one that I use, and that's what the one that I got for today's.
okay.
Well, I like the idea of Mercury in Capricorn trining Uranus in the first.
Mm,
That says to me a lot of new stuff, especially in
Yeah.
legislation.
nice.
And if you
We
look
love
at it
optimism
mundanely,
here.
this would be legislation, wouldn't it?
Mars retrograde. Yeah, but
Trump.
Mercury is
Sorry.
also opposed by retrograde Mars.
In Cancer, in the third house at the IC.
So
Yeah.
there's another Pluto at the midheaven. Interesting. I think they should change the date up on these inaugurations.
I
Well,
think it's safe to say that it's going to be a very interesting year, 24.
so yeah, so
I
back
mean,
Yes.
then, yeah, so in 1776, like we were in 7 years of war, and it's echoing what's going on right now. Just the tumultuous conflict, not just the Republican, grand old GOP having such conflicts, but if you look at the Democratic Party, that it swung so far to the right, and then there's a very progressive socialist Democratic left. I mean, they just censured Rashida Tlaib for speaking up on behalf of Palestinian lives. So we have a
Right.
complete divide in the Democratic Party, which is completely now corporate. So I mean, I think the whole 2024 election, like a lot of the decisions that have happened in the past month have almost blown the election.
yeah,
Yes.
both parties neither party is focused. Let me put it that way. The
It's
Republicans seem to be showing more of that division between the vocal extreme right and the quiet moderates. The Democrats, on the other hand, can't seem to get a coherent anything going.
Yes, but Taylor
I
Swift,
I
Taylor
did a
Swift.
chart for the 19th of July. Oh, I forgot where the Republican convention is.
Oh,
Where is it? Wisconsin?
let's see, 2024.
That was
But
fascinating.
what's
way-
interesting about it is on the last day, when you compare it to Trump's chart, he's going to have Mars squaring his ascendant and Uranus squaring his Mars. So he's
Yes,
getting a
he's gonna
double
temper
whammy of
tantrums.
Mars Aquarius. What?
the Republican
Sounds
convention
like more
is scheduled for
temper
Milwaukee.
tantrums.
You
I'm
know,
sorry.
one of the things I have comes through my mind from time to time is this guy has endured so much stress,
Yeah.
like so insane amounts of stress every single day, and he lives and feeds off of it. But I don't know how long a heart can take that kind of life in the public eye over and over and over again. I just don't see it being viable.
No.
Sorry, I'm not wishing anything. I don't, want him for president, but I'm not
No,
wishing
we're
anything
not
on him.
wishing
There's a
anything, but I
wave.
mean, in astrology, you look at that. This is the last day of the Republican convention. And and I'm just saying that his chart, he's getting all of these massive squares between Mars and Uranus and his ascendant at the same time.
Yeah.
Not surprised.
So that to me
like I said,
says says he's going to be very upset because he didn't get nominated.
Well, yeah, because I
And
mean,
we should keep sending him free fried food every day.
Yeah.
I
Yes.
made
I don't know how he's lived as long as he has.
Send him some McDonald's gift cards. There we go.
Oh, I'm
we
boycotting McDonald's. It goes to
And a milkshake.
KFC.
no KFC. I'm boycotting because it's
Um,
funds to Israel.
well,
Oh,
I
I'm
would
saying
boycott
KFC
McDonald's
for
except
Trump.
they have the best French fries. So, and my wife occasionally likes French fries, so we go there for fries.
I think it was fascinating, Wave, that you noticed that Pluto right on the midheaven at the inauguration.
Yeah.
I made 5 videos in 2017 about Trump's inauguration based on 2 planets in the 9th house conjunct. 5 videos because I was watching their meaning unfold in real time and I was being blown away by what I was seeing. The conjunction was Mercury and Pluto in Capricorn.
Mm.
You
What
know
I'm
what?
jealous about Trump's chart is
Mercury
his
and
Jupiter Uranus is stronger than mine. As an astrologer, you want a strong Jupiter Uranus.
Mercury and Pluto is massive immigration issues, massive propaganda and lies, and massive underground organizations doing things behind the scenes and all that kind of thing. It was also, I even predicted a pandemic because of Pluto Mercury in Capricorn. I'm not kidding. I actually, it wasn't like, oh, that's definitely going to happen, but I made a list of things that could potentially happen, and that was one of them.
Mm-hmm.
So those inauguration charts in this particular case with him was like a living expression of the solar system was coming through him, which is an interesting thing because you can't necessarily say that that happens with every inauguration or every president, if you see what I mean.
Yeah. Okay, I just had a thought, so if I can hang on to it, but I'm going to try something, and if it pans out, I'll talk about it later, like in a future meetup. So we're doing fine. We spent a lot of time talking about that far in the future, but I think what we are missing is the significant total solar eclipse next year.
Yes, it's hard not to get excited and spin into the future, but there's definitely tremendous, I mean, even today, fascinating aspects.
This last solar lunar window, the Taurus Scorpio, this last just happened in October. It completely derailed and redid something to my whole life because it landed right on my south node in my and 3 planets, like exact. It was just really strange to go. Those eclipses are intense.
Yes.
They can be.
Yes.
Yes, they can be. Okay, so here we go. Here is the. Let me see. Let me show something.
It's again with this south node opposition happening again, Cornelia. Wow, look at this. Again, all of these planets. Mm.
Sextile my midheaven.
Total eclipse in April.
Let me show.
This is going to cut from Texas to the 13 colonies. That's the path of this one. And I didn't look at the astrocartography for this yet. Okay.
Oh, close conjunction of that Mercury Sat
What does that mean? The sun, moon, and Chiron all together.
The people, the power,
yeah, that's what I was finding interesting, is that
wound.
Chiron is going to be exactly conjunct the eclipse point. Now, here we go.
Wow.
Here we go.
Wow.
I'm going to.
I just hear explosive.
We'll come back to the chart. I'm going to share this first. Okay.
I want to share the Sabian symbols for the lunar
All right.
node.
So here is. Can you see the map and the red line?
Right.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about.
The red line is a line of totality for the April 8th eclipse.
In Mexico, Texas, and 13 colonies. Indianapolis, Louisville, Arkansas, the Canadian border at Lake Erie.
Yeah.
So the bigger towns seems to be Little Rock and
Indianapolis, Louisville, Kentucky.
Indianapolis, yeah.
Dallas, I think.
Yeah, they're closest. So if you want to get to see it, go to Indianapolis or Little Rock. They'll be closest. Indianapolis might be a little safer. I don't know. But yeah, they're pretty close to the eclipse line. There's probably
I
some
have
points in
friends in
Texas.
St. Louis. Everybody's talking about it there too.
I got so sick of the last.
That's right. St. Louis is down there, isn't it?
Yeah.
I had a migraine because of the eclipse last month. I literally.
This will be the second. So this will be visible from. This will be the second eclipse to be visible from around Houston, Texas, huh?
Yeah. In fact, okay. You see the black lines?
Yeah.
Okay, so those lines show how the extent of less than total but partial eclipse lines. And you'll notice that it will be visible to some extent across the entire United States.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
You can see some, as long as you have clear skies and the right time of day. And that is.
So I should be able to see it here in New Mexico.
Yeah, it's 11:20 a.m., 11:21 a.m. Our time is exact. So yeah, everybody in the United States will have an opportunity to see it, assuming they have clear skies.
Would you show us the chart again?
Hey, I just brought up the 15 degrees Aries because it's this Aries Libra axis, right? So 15 degrees Aries is nature spirits are seen at work in the light of sunset. What time of day does this eclipse happen at?
11:21 a.m.
Okay, around noon. So that's very interesting because I keep bringing in this issue of the Virgo point with the ecological world. It's something that I'm tracking, like, because we have to solve this issue.
Right,
so, nature spirits are seen at work in the light of sunset, and that's 15 to 16 degrees Aries. Let me skim to Virgo real quick. Again, at 15 degrees Virgo. I hope it's a good one. 15 to
God, it's all the planets there together. It's just
wild. Look, 15 to 16 degrees Virgo. In the zoo, children are brought face to face with an orangutan. And the orangutan is in Borneo, Indonesia, and it's facing extinction.
Yeah, there's seven points in Aries.
Now talk about Chiron conjunct the sun and moon. I don't, I mean, I know about Chiron, but I have to go and read the book again before I can remember what it means.
Well, for me, it's like it is the lesson that the wound that we have that we can never heal, that we understand and learn about, that we teach others. And if that, it's kind of, the karmatic lesson that we teach others. So if the moon symbolizes the people and the clan and the motherland, then we have something to teach about what it means to be really our wound, our national history, which is really
Dr.
a colonialization issue.
Now,
That
when
Dr.
does
House
this happen?
character in the old TV series is a good example of Chiron, the wounded healer, that you're able to empathize with others' pain because of your own.
Yes. Empathy.
So we have the people and the sun
Yes.
also, which would represent the president, an authority figure.
It could, but I always really interpret the Saturn. Well, yes, at an eclipse, the sun, definitely an authority, but Saturn conjunct Mars in Pisces, which is fascinating in and of itself, quincunx the south node.
That looks like war to me. I don't know why I'm saying that. It's just coming out that way.
Yeah, the thing about empathy, Andrew, thank you, is what I have as an American, this whole issue with Palestine and understanding the colonial history and its war history for 100 years and more has really brought a lot of knowledge about how our nation is so colonized historically for 400 years and what empathy and reparation work that we need to do as a nation.
Well, let me ask a personal question. That whole stellium there of the sun, moon, and Chiron fall on my Uranus in the 10th house. I don't know how to interpret that. Maybe somebody could throw that in there.
Well, I don't know if aspecting the outer planets is big of a deal as what's referred to as the personal planets. That if your Uranus really isn't aspect anything significant in your natal chart, then you may not notice it that much.
It sounds like an intellectual superpower breakthrough for you, Cornelia, of like,
well, maybe I'll get my book published. I'm getting it ready to go out.
yeah, it sounds like a tremendous, like, I don't know, using technology or an intuition, lightning speed.
No, it's proposing a new natal chart for America, for the United States. One that's never been used before.
Which house is is it going to be in your Cornelia?
What?
Which house is this in your chart?
My 10th house, 19
10th house?
Uranus.
Yeah. I would think probably the most likely thing. What's it doing to your Mercury?
Not doing anything. My Mercury, well, it trines, my Mercury's at 10 Leo, but what it does do is it sets all my T square because I have the sun Pluto at 20 Cancer and Saturn at 19 Capricorn.
Okay.
Have you looked at the Declaration of War chart for 1775? I think that's even more significant than the July 4th of 1776. The Declaration of War was July 8th, 1775. I think that's more relevant.
Well, this is fascinating that Neptune's right there on the, you're talking, Wave brought up what's on the midheaven. And Neptune on the midheaven, 23, Saturn approaching the midheaven. That doesn't bode well, does it?
Well, I don't know about you, but I've been waiting for some event to happen which turns people around. It breaks the deadlock we've got right now. That seems to me like it's a possibility. Who knows
what was
what
so
it'll
sick and so sad? How this country, such a large percentage, are wanting to resurrect Benito Mussolini and wants to resurrect
Yes,
Adolf Hitler and wants to
he
resurrect
does look like
Tojo.
Mussolini. When he holds his chin up, he looks just like
Exactly,
Mussolini.
exactly. Yeah, half of Trump's photos keeps reminding me of Mussolini. That
Yeah,
I'm afraid the breakout that you're referring to is really more about where we'll, as the comedians would say, is uh, what he called a failed insurrection practice.
yeah, yeah.
There's got to be something that happens that turns people away in disgust.
Yeah, well, I'm all for moving to a Christian country myself. But
Uh, well, if you listen to the far right, extreme right Republicans, this is a Christian country.
I thought this
yeah,
was a
right.
Christian country.
No, it's
Well,
not
Yeah,
a
right.
Christian country.
it's
No?
It's a
sort of
diverse
how I
country because we allow freedom of religion. So we have tons of different religions here.
yeah on
It wasn't a
paper.
country. It
Uh,
wasn't meant to be a Christian nation. If you go
well,
yeah,
back and read, if you go back and read the founding fathers, they insisted that it wasn't a Christian nation. It was a nation of laws.
well, some wild man
But
a couple of thousand years ago said, "By their deeds ye shall know them." So I pretty much equate that there is no conflict with the teachings of Jesus and small s socialism. So if you look at the
That's
Scandinavian
true. That's
countries
true
and
also.
Canada, you're going
yeah.
to find the small s socialist countries that pretty much are in alignment with the teachings of Jesus. So yeah, I give a thumbs up to Scandinavia and Canada for that
Yes, and those
category.
are all the happiest countries too, every year. They're picked
Yep,
as the
yep.
happiest countries.
By their deeds ye shall know them.
Hmm.
yeah,
Okay,
it
where are we
doesn't
at?
matter. It doesn't matter what the religion is. It matters by the deeds ye shall know them. Are they
Yep,
kind? Are they
Yes.
helping people out?
yep,
Are they looking out for the people
yep.
or themselves? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what's
Yeah, but
really cute is I've seen videos of the border guards in Canada wave people in. Good luck trying to find that in this country.
Mm-hmm.
Canadian border guards waving folks in. How cute is that? Huh?
And I'm just waiting for a time when American can get away from old white guys trying to run things.
Yeah, me
Yeah,
too.
Oh, sorry.
yeah. Yeah, that's why
Yeah,
I'm cheering on Kamala. Go Kamala! Woohoo!
you know, I was I was pleased to see her on the ticket. I'm less than
Yeah,
impressed by her track record since she's been there. I don't know what she's really done, but we don't hear too much about it. So I don't know how
most of
well
it's been
prepared she is to take
most of
over.
it's been negative about her.
yeah.
So I don't
And
know.
when
It's
Moriarty, when Moriarty here had a Chamber of Commerce, I was the first and only guy who was going rah rah for Hillary when she first put her hat in the ring, or even before she put her hat in the ring, I was going rah rah Hillary. And
go back in 16, yeah, 15, yeah,
yeah,
that was
Mm.
then.
everybody just stared at me.
Yeah, for whatever reason, we got Obama, and then we, you know, stepped back a generation. We went back to the World War II baby boomer groups.
Well, what I kind of believe is where he hanged on every word of Geithner, his Republican bro from Chicago, on the economic bullshit that Geithner was feeding him, and he fell for that malarkey. And
That's a good point. That's a very good point.
It's yeah. Um,
Well, I
okay,
think
so
we're really living through a recycle of the revolution. The
yeah,
same
and
kind
in some ways we are.
of
Um,
yes,
I don't want to.
it's like it's the aspects are the same, at least in my chart.
Yeah.
Uranus going through Taurus, and then it'll go into Gemini. Oh, what's this?
Oh, well, yeah, yeah, we still have time, but I just wanted to bring this up, which is our tentative schedule ahead. So next meeting is going to be on December 10th, and we're going to be doing our forecast for 24. So if you got, uh, you know, dust
Oh,
off your
good.
crystal ball and sharpen up your whatever, yeah, you
Gonna
want
be
to
a
use.
busy year.
But notice it's the
Is that
forecast for
going to be
24, and I say don't get in front of the fan. And I hope you understand what that means. Yes, Connie.
Oh, I just wanted to ask a quick question about reading the chart that you had up about the next eclipse.
Huh?
So just to make sure that I'm reading it correctly. Okay, so at the time of the eclipse, I think the rising sign, or I think Libra was on the horizon. So would that mean to say that if that's the case, would that mean that I could say it's affecting my 11th house because I'm counting around, or is it the other way around? I think it's, well, let's see.
I
Yeah,
think one of
11th
them. Hang on,
house.
there it is.
I'm sorry, it's
There it
in
is. Cancer rising.
Pisces. So my rising sign is Taurus, right? So would I be saying that would be affecting my second house?
No, it's more likely to be in your 12th house or 11th.
Okay, that's what okay, yeah.
What's the cusp on your 12th house?
My custom at 12th house is, Aries.
What degree?
I can't recall, but I think
Okay.
it's, yeah.
Yeah. So the
You're gonna have
Aries.
Uranus going over your ascendant, honey?
Well, my ascendant is Taurus, so is that what it said? Well, actually, Uranus is on my ascendant right now, I believe.
Are you not
What?
going through any changes?
I've been going through a lot of changes.
Yeah. Well, he has
Oh,
some more
okay.
coming because Jupiter's.
I was just gonna say, when I went over my ascendant, I got married and moved to California from New York, so it was a big change.
No, I've been
when I
going
got
through
into when I got into astrology in 1969, Uranus kept the transiting Uranus kept dancing back and forth over my Venus, and
Hey, well, right now I've got Uranus on my ascendant and Pluto pretty much conjunct my midheaven. So yeah, I'm going through some changes.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
sounds
When
like
the
Cancer found his
What a
lifelong
magic
love
spell.
of astrology with Uranus on his Venus. Go ahead.
Oh, and one other thing I wanted to ask you. I've been hearing off and on about this next winter solstice is supposed to be so transformative, but I can't really, I looked at the chart and I couldn't really find anything that ominous about it. So have you had a chance to look at that?
sure, we can look at that.
The only thing I could see is that it's forming, I think, a trine with the moon.
Let's see.
Yeah, it's at 7. Well, according to it says Google says it's at 7:27 on 7:27 p.m. on the December 21st.
That
But
Pacific
according to
time.
AstroSeek, it's more like 7:30. So
Hang on.
They're always a really good question to look at the solstice, look at the cross quarters, equinox, solstice. Those are really important to look at the quarter as well as the month.
Okay, here we go. So here is winter solstice, December 21st, 7:27 p.m. California time. It's right before, yeah, it's like the day before the Sun Mercury inferior conjunction. Pluto's at 29 Capricorn, struggling to get into back to Aquarius. Keep in mind, he's going to go into Aquarius in 24, but he's going to go back to Capricorn again. in 24. So Pluto's
Yeah.
not done with Capricorn.
which is, it's taken so long.
I
Mhm.
know.
Yeah,
Then
you
I
got to.
Uranus is making a grand trine to my birth planets. That's
Mhm.
nice.
When it's at the 29th degree, it's supposed to be extra dramatic timing and extra dramatic timing. It
Yeah,
seems to
so you
me
got
that, yeah, that
yeah,
since the Pluto conjunct Pluto in the USA chart, that that we were leading up to it, but now we're leading out of it. It's still in play. It's going to be in play
Yeah.
for a long time. This is an evolutionary
yes,
process that happened. This is
Yes.
not
yeah,
like, oh well, it happened and now it's over. Now we're watching all the ways it's doing its thing, evolutionary breakdown, bringing us into the underworld of things.
Absolutely.
yeah. We also have notice also that Pluto is making an Earth trine to Sedna, both
And
at
squaring
29.
and squaring the midheaven and Eris. Pluto is doing that square to that area. Yeah.
Hmm.
Oh wow, I didn't
Yeah,
realize that.
Yeah. Well,
Oops,
Pluto
that's a little disruptive.
and
yeah.
also Pluto in the sixth house, but this is in Los Angeles, but approaching that descendant, approaching that angle. And it's like really looking at those angles are really important. Again, south node on the IC, north node approaching the midheaven. So this is for Los Angeles.
Right. Now, is there any significance to the fact that the solstice is forming a trine with the moon?
Um, significance?
I'm just wondering because that's
Yes.
what's sticking out
I
to
mean,
me.
from a theoretical / practical standpoint, yes. I mean, every aspect is significant.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you've got the Earth involved. There's a lot of
Mhm.
earthy stuff going on.
Right.
And you've got Sun, Mercury, trining the moon, and you've got Pluto trining Sedna. You've got Uranus in
Excuse me,
Earth
somebody's at
sign,
my door.
opposing Venus. Um, for LA,
Well,
who knows? Could be an earthquake.
I,
I
th-
hope not.
I think one way to cheat to see which aspects have an extra oomph to them is to also look at the heliocentric charts.
Mm.
Yeah, we can do that easily enough.
This is just for Los Angeles as opposed to like the Washington DC chart, which would be what
Mhm.
7, 8, 9, 10 p.m. It would rotate all the planets. They're in a bowl formation. That's the other thing I look at is like what are the planetary formation of the chart? Is it a bowl?
Yeah.
Is it an arrow, a fan, a splay? And this is more condensed into a bowl. So I mean, we're looking at the West Coast. If we wanted to look at the U.S., we could set it for Washington. Although
Yeah.
I do like
Yeah.
looking at the West Coast because California is such a huge economic player in the country.
Yes.
Hmm.
Okay, here's what
It has
the
an
ingress looks like
economy
with
larger than
Washington.
France.
Yes, larger than Britain, I think.
I noticed the March 10th new moon. It's 2 minutes off of my descendant.
Um, yeah, so the Capricorn ingress for the USA happens in the first house. Um, and see that Pluto still isn't that far from the natal position of Pluto.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, and until it's
Yep.
10 degrees away, it's going to be
That's
playing out, or
Okay.
9 degrees away.
mm-hmm.
This is interesting. So in the
Interesting.
USA
Transiting Neptune, 24 Pisces, trining USA Mercury at 24 Cancer in the 8th house, 3rd to 8th.
This is interesting because this is all of the planets are in the north. They're not visible. They're on the bottom half of the chart.
Yeah. The only one that's
That's what I
above the
wanted.
horizon is Venus,
Exactly.
which
So
is opposite.
Well, do you think they're going to shut down the government?
Venus in the 12th house in Scorpio. And
Probably.
hmm,
Big T-square, mutable T-square.
Pluto,
Yeah.
Jupiter, and
If
the nodes.
Neptune, Mars,
Out of, oh, in the outer rim.
The chart I use for the USA has Neptune conjuncting the 4th house cusp.
yeah,
Yeah.
Mars is applying to a square to Neptune. Thank you.
I just added to it.
Okay, thanks.
Just more and more flooding. I just always see floods when I see Neptune at the 4th.
You have that potential. If if I was somebody who didn't like the United States, another country, Iran or whoever, or Hezbollah, whatever, and I would be watching very closely to see whether or not the government shuts down. Because if the government shuts down, that's could be a
Then they
prime
can-
opportunity to strike.
And you don't need people like what's his face denying the military from getting their new positions. You don't need a
I mean,
traitor like
I mean,
him in the legislature.
yeah, Tommy Tuberville
Yeah.
out of
I
Alabama.
wonder if they shut down the government, if that isn't going to be a turning point for a lot of people in this country.
They shut down the government a couple of times while Trump was president.
Yeah.
At least
Mhm.
once for like 5 weeks or so.
5
It went on
weeks?
for an extremely long time.
Yeah.
Right.
But if that were to
So-
happen and that we were attacked, the military people would take over. It would become a military state. And then that you wouldn't have the government, to modify
Mm.
what they're doing. It could be really disastrous.
No, not really, because the
No?
administrative branch is still working.
Oh, okay. All right.
What happens literally when the government shuts down is that it doesn't shut down completely. A lot of the people are sent home but every agency has essential people that are still there working.
Oh, well, that's good to hear. Because it could be really,
Not
it
getting
could be
paid.
bad.
So I worked for the federal government for 40 years, not counting my military time. And yeah, we went through a few shutdowns, and there was always a matter of who's essential. Well, if you're essential, you come to work.
Mhm,
You have to go to work.
mhm,
And then once
mhm.
the shutdown is, the budget's resolved and we got money to function again, then you'll get paid for the time that you were
Mhm.
working without getting paid. But everybody who was sent home because they weren't essential also gets paid. So you're not going to say, the government doesn't save any money by shutting down because everybody gets
Yeah.
paid everything they're due.
It's
Yeah.
But the
it's
government never
amusing
really,
how the Republic.
Yeah, it can't shut down. But
Yeah.
there is a
It's-
chance that could happen anyway, a military takeover. Could shut down and the military wants to take over. I mean, I'm just saying there's,
is it possible? Yeah,
Yeah.
that can happen without the government shutting down though. Government doesn't need to shut down to do that.
Oh, okay. Oh,
Right.
yeah, you're right. That's right. Good point.
All you need is somebody in the military saying, enough of this shit. We need to take over
Yeah.
and clean house.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. But
And
the one
there aren't
thing,
that many there
Yeah.
aren't that many traitors in the Republican Party for that to happen. And just because there's a lot of them
they don't
doesn't
have
mean
enough.
there's enough of them. Yeah.
Yeah. Because the one thing
There's
that,
just
something to
enough
keep in mind is
loose.
that, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oop.
Finish up, Andrew.
Just enough sane people in the Republican Party that a lot of folks, either Republican or Democrat, seem to forget that before the Johnson administration, the party that could spell the word morals was the Republican Party. And then after the Johnson administration, after he signed the Voting Rights Act, after he signed the Civil Rights Act, the Republican Democratic Party did a flip-flop. So the Democratic Party after the Johnson era was the Republican Party before Johnson got in. That both major parties did a complete flip-flop after he signed the Civil Rights Act and after he signed the Voting Rights Act.
Mhm.
But you hardly hear anybody ever mention that flip-flop.
I know. Yeah, because if you think about it, when the Republican Party was founded with Lincoln, and they were the progressive, more
Yep.
liberal party. And the
Teddy
Democrats were the
Roosevelt.
Southern Democrats. They were the ones that wanted to keep
Yep.
things the way they were. And like you say,
Yep.
that continued until Johnson took over.
Yep.
Pretty much. It was pretty
Complete
much that way all
flip-flop.
the way through it.
I don't know if that happened anywhere around the world before of the two major factions doing a complete flip-flop. And I don't know where that
Um,
ever
I
happened
don't,
anywhere else around the world.
yeah, I'm not aware of it. But then again, I don't know that. But see, our political system is a bit unique because we only have those two parties really that are two viable parties.
Yeah. See,
Um,
people keep pissing into the wind, thinking somehow they're going to magically change the government by going with third-party efforts. And I was one of those idiots also for 50 years. And you know, you need to have the parliamentary form of government, like what they have in Europe and everywhere else around the world. Uh, you know, where then you can have adjustments, rational adjustments be made incrementally. But the two-party system is fucked. You just can't get
Yes, it totally is.
rational decision making with that extremism of a two-party system. You need the
yeah,
Right.
parliamentary system to have a
it,
rational representational government.
yeah. There was a time when our two parties did seem to get along a little better, and but it was a time when the old white guys were running things, and it was basically if you got elected to be a representative or a senator, it wasn't like an election. You were appointed for life because nobody was going to take it away from you, and you just and so they would wheel and deal all the time. And of course, part of the problem with
Well, I
wheeling and
blame
dealing is you end up spending a lot of money on stuff that we don't need, but that's the way it goes. But yeah,
well, it's really amazing how some people who've never been elected, what an insane impact they've had on our system with Roger Ailes when he was uh, Nixon's chief of staff, is when he
mhm,
came up with the brainstorm of instigating a propaganda machine, which eventually became Fox Noise. And we have Nixon and Roger Ailes to thank for this foaming at the mouth fanaticism coming out of the right.
yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. If a viable third party forms like it did in '92 with H. Ross Perot, they're going to suck votes from somebody or from both candidates, and then it still depends. You still don't know who's going to come out on top. So it's
Right.
summer is it's gonna be an interesting summer when we finally see who actually comes out on top here because um, Trump's fraud trial is supposed to wrap up this year, so we'll probably have a verdict in terms of the what the dollar amount of damages will be. And of course, then whatever that is, they will be appealing that for a while. His other two cases are scheduled to start. Let's see what the insurrection records trial is scheduled for around the Super Tuesday in February, I think. And the one in
Well, that judge in
no,
Florida is
that's the one
letting
in
him off of
Georgia.
that.
Isn't the one in Georgia Super Tuesday and the one with the records May or something like that? But they're
Yeah,
all
that's the one in
scheduled,
Florida.
they'll get going um, before the conventions. But I keep wondering at what point do not everybody that's pro Trump is as blind as the extremists are. They don't hear what he says and they it's not computing in their limited cranial capacities. But at some point, all of his
Probably.
misstatements are going to start to come back to haunt him, I think, because more than once he's referred to Obama as being the president. He's confused the leaders of different countries. He tends to express what great gratitude and admiration he has for dictators and despots. So it's kind of like, yo, folks, put the things together here. If you hear what he's saying is that's what and he's already talking about what he wants to do when he gets reelected.
Mm.
Yeah, he's going to go in, clean
When
house, and start throwing people in jail
Yeah,
who
I have
voted against him, who
my
didn't like
first
him, or
wife,
he didn't like.
my first wife and I, we lived in Argentina for a couple years, and I met people who's had friends and family members taken away in the middle of the night, never to be seen again. And we could have that scenario here if Trump ever makes it back into the Oval Office.
And gets his wish. Yes. Uh, the one thing that works against him is what he fails to comprehend. The military leaders swear allegiance to the Constitution, not the president. So they are bound by the Constitution,
Hmm.
not the
Hmm.
president. Now he could give a
Well,
rat's ass
his whole
about the
life,
Constitution.
yeah, his whole life he's been surrounded by sycophants, so he doesn't understand the concept of people who work by principles rather than self-interest.
Well, pardon me, but I'm wondering if a lot of his frustration is because he's never been able to bet his daughter. So I don't know, because it seems that I mean, he's got some great fantasies about her. So I don't know if that's his problem or what.
can I
He
go
really,
back?
Mary Trump talks about his problem, his niece in her books and her work. She's a
yeah,
depth psychologist, and she's really psychoanalyzed the whole Cartman family drama triangle of toxic family systems and how narcissists are born. So
yeah.
she's really interesting. Hey, I wanted to go back to Cornelia's concept about this issue of, this two-party system, and we're seeing it play out. There's parallels everywhere in the world. The United Kingdom has this Tory Labour Party that's really going through a lot of the same struggles: economic collapse, social justice issues, healthcare, national health system collapse. We have a insurance industry driven health system, disaster system. And there's also this kind of right wing push. We see it in the current, the German prime minister, the Italian prime minister, Giorgia Meloni. But we've seen these shifts. Last eclipse earlier this year with Lula being voted in and Bolsonaro voted out in Brazil. So we're seeing these changes and a tremendous amount of social protest all over the world simultaneously over the past month that's really addressing the heart of these issues: colonialism and financial collapse and the war profiteering industry. And we're seeing a ton of people en masse rising up to protest these, not just protest in the streets, but literal, like visiting the arms manufacturers in Oakland and in Tacoma, Washington, people blocking the weapons shipments by boat, and unions that do shipping refusing to touch weapons to ship them. So there's a global connection to of course, the US is a big part of this cycle, but we're seeing a lot of resistance and direct action and a desire for third party politics, certainly in the UK and elsewhere. We're needing more.
Well, I've been thinking that once Pluto is into Aquarius, what we'll have we need to have another constitutional convention.
Yep.
To change the Constitution, to shorten the limits.
Yep.
To shorten the judges on the Supreme Court, make their limits. They have to retire by a certain age instead of being life, and that they can only serve in the Senate or the House of Representatives for, 12 years. That's a maximum, because you can't have them sitting in there for 50 years when they're totally out of touch with the new generation. So it has to be corrected in some way. And I think the younger people are looking for that too.
Yeah.
Can I make
And
a
what's
suggestion?
happened to us is we've gone against what the founding fathers wanted. They didn't want a bunch of parties because they could see what's happened to us is the parties now choose who we get to vote for. We
Yeah.
don't get to choose.
Yes.
Supposedly we do, but we don't. I mean, you have your primaries, but look at all the money these people spend.
Yeah.
Once you got money into politics,
Yeah.
Yeah, the
and the
original
people
system
with
was
the money
actually
are
kind
the
of cool.
what?
Whoever got the most votes became president, and the second most votes became vice president. Imagine a situation with Hillary as president and 45 Trump as vice president, or vice versa.
And that totally explains why they would censure Rashida Tlaib
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
Michigan, who's anywhere near social justice. Spencer is waving. Are you taking off?
Yeah,
Hi,
I'd like
Spencer.
to
Yes.
say something that hasn't been
Let me
brought
finish my
up.
sentence. Hang on. But it just makes sense, and under this system, to absolutely censor and censure anyone that would contradict or try to attempt to include their voice. Okay.
Yeah.
I would like to talk about Ross Perot and the election that got us Clinton. Now, there's a situation where if you had a three-party system that could combine two people who are also involved in the count to become president or a parliamentary head, we would have had a much different system, because that system that we had gave it all to Clinton, even though he didn't have all of the other things that he needed, because Perot absolutely sabotaged Bush. And to get that kind of a operative aspect of our Constitution, where two parties with the popular vote could also then have the presidency. That's my little speech. But if you went through Ross Perot, some of us have, that was quite a deal. So anyway,
if it
I'm
wasn't,
sorry I had to scream, but I keep wanting to bring that point up.
yeah, if it hadn't been for him, Bush would have been reelected, and who knows what would have happened after that. But we did,
It would be a
and it
lot
didn't.
different. Yeah.
Yeah. What happens, we get what we deserve for the
That's my point. My point in my book is it's not the party's fault, it's our fault. We've let them take all the money, put all the money into politics, and they run everything, and the parties decide who we're going to have for president. And what kind of a choice do we get? I mean, what good is it if you're going to have two presidents and you don't
Well-
want either one of them?
You get we get the best president and Congress that somebody else's money can buy.
That's
Well, there
right.
were 12 constitutional conventions to try to get rid of the Electoral College, and all 12 efforts failed.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good point.
Yeah, that's one thing we need to get rid of it. So it's a popular vote, not just, that's more democratic. It's a popular vote,
Yeah.
not the Electoral College.
Yep.
Of course, back then, the reason for the Electoral College was that most Americans were illiterate, and you didn't have the ability to, you didn't have mass communication, distribution of news and stuff. So it was their
Well,
way
that's
of
why we
trying to
need a new
control things.
constitution, don't we? I mean, to fit
Well, we
modern
could,
times.
we could do away with the Electoral College, go with the popular vote.
Yep.
I was looking at just even as we speak, we're now in the heart of the Mars-Uranus opposition. And I was curious if anyone had any predictions or thoughts about this, or have heard anything. I think what we're seeing is like a lot of really this revolutionary protests in response to what's happening in the Israel-Palestine conflict.
Yeah.
And And I'm hoping that will ignite or enliven more responses.
I think the problem with that is that it's a distraction from what we need to be paying attention to.
Say more.
I mean, if everybody's fighting about that, who's looking at what we're supposed to be doing for ourselves?
Yeah.
I mean, you can't. Netanyahu's another Trump, you know.
Yeah.
He's going to do the thing that he thinks is best for himself. He doesn't give a crap. He's the most right wing person they've had for I don't know how long.
Decades.
So it becomes a distraction it takes away people's attention. The only good thing about it is the news is more about what's going on over there than it is about Trump. I'm glad to hear.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a horrible thing that's happening. But I don't think Biden, I don't know, why are they going to blame Biden? Netanyahu wouldn't listen to Biden. I'm sure that's exactly what happened because he came back and he said he's going to do what he wants to do.
Well, Biden's taking the heat for the weapons industry. I mean, we have 38 states in the United States that have arms manufacturers in each of these states. So
Right.
I mean, he's the hitman, but this is why they're so important. Where there are all these shipping and dock workers that are their unions are blocking these arms, and it brings it back to home. Of course, we don't want to be spending money, our hard-earned tax dollars, on massacring innocent people. We need our money for our healthcare and our education system and for college education and for infrastructure and good housing and safe communities.
The silver lining I'm looking at is the one that the red states, they just aren't vaccinating. On top of that, the Republican governors are trying to avoid adding anything to Medicare. So basically, that's why the Republicans are trying to prevent the Dems from voting because the Republicans know they're killing themselves off like lemming running off of a cliff. So that's the silver lining I'm looking at is that Republican intellectuals are killing themselves off.
Yeah, they are. I agree with
Well,
that.
They have intellectuals?
Not fast enough.
well, I wonder though, they may be spouting anti-vaccination rhetoric, but are they really not being vaccinated? It seems a lot of them
Oh,
are
I'm
getting the
more
We
than
don't
did
willing.
get the
know.
vaccination.
I'm
Even
more than willing to provide the bleach and the ivermectin.
yeah, but yeah, it does seem that more of them have actually got the vaccination than even though they were telling other people not to. But you look at other things. It's like Mississippi in the election that they just had last Tuesday was, they ran out of ballots in the black and Democratic sections.
Mhm.
Right. Hey, I hate to say this, but I made a commitment to my wife that we would go somewhere. So I'm going to leave you. Jim is such a great leader, and I enjoyed this stimulating
I
conversation.
did too. I did too.
Okay. So bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Spencer. Take care.
Have a good one, Spencer.
Take care, man. Hi to your wife and have fun doing whatever you're gonna
Bye,
do.
and take care. See you next time. All right. Bye bye.
Alrighty.
Hey,
Yeah, it is
okay, guys.
having. Yeah, I kind of. This open forum, open mic seems to be working, even though a lot of the people that said they were coming didn't show up, unfortunately. But you know, um, maybe we should just kind of build in some of this time. Build it. I'm thinking if I make my programs a little shorter, which isn't easy for me to do, then provide more time for this kind of discussion. It might go better.
Mhm.
Well, when I gotten into astrology in San Francisco, there was a old timer astrologer who had weekly meetings on Friday nights, And one thing we would do is start with the articles in American Astrology Magazine and Dell Horoscope, and then go from there. But we use those two magazines as the initial springboard to start those conversations every other Friday.
Yeah,
That's
well,
very interesting because I was just reading the MTA new edition and there's a whole article on there looking at 24 and it's so
mhm.
bleak and depressing to read. I had to put it aside because I was getting upset reading it.
Well, who is the author, Cornelia?
I don't remember.
I can look it up. Okay.
Hang on.
Yeah.
That's important.
Oh, by the way, I'm going to be writing an article for their blog on my book, Kid Wheels.
Oh,
Remember
oh,
that?
there's two books I would like to recommend. I mentioned MG Buchholz earlier. He does an annual one regarding the commodities and investments every year. Another good annual preview is by a LA astrologer. How many of you have met Gal Sassoon? First name Gahl,
I
last
I
name Sassoon.
I know of
Have
him,
Mm-mm.
but
any of
I
you met
never met.
him?
I
Yeah.
know I've not
So
met him, but I know of him. Yeah.
he has a good annual book also. So MG
Let's see.
Buchholz and Gal Sassoon. I would suggest at least compare both of their books for uh, next year so we can do a process of elimination for down the road.
Hey, Jim, I liked your idea, by the way, just to bounce back and give you some feedback of having a little more time in these sessions. Because especially for people like you, me, Wade, Cornelia, so many of us have been doing this for long enough and we're doing our own research and we've been really looking at these charts. It's great to look at a bunch of charts that are up and coming events and to create strategies and take good medicine from them.
Right.
That's
I
Okay.
agree with
good.
that. Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
So here's the main articles from the December January issue of Mountain Astrologer. Taylor Schuler is doing an article, Mastering Joy in the Small Moments Every Day for 24. Bill Meridian, Global Scan, Mundane Prospects into 24-25. Maurice Fernandez, When Walls Collapse and Heroes Rise. The great 2025-26 Saturn Neptune conjunction at 0 Aries.
Oh, is there
So
one that
there's,
I didn't get that far?
yeah.
The one that had an overlook of 24 was very bleak.
Yeah, those are the main ones talking about that. There's some other stuff that looks interesting. Hmm. See, Charlotte Wenner, Essence of Lilith and the Astrological Black Moon. And those of you who know me know my fascination with the Black Moon.
Do you know what? Up on astro.com, Astrodeens, they frequently post articles that are free and accessible. And it might be nice to choose maybe 2 articles and share them as a group with a link. So if we've all read an article, that would be really prime us for a good discussion next time or a possible idea for the future.
Yeah. Okay. I'll look and see what's out there as far as um, forecast for 24 that everybody can access. I know that not everybody can access the Mountain Astrologer if you don't subscribe, but yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Catalina. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because then we can send that out, let people know that'll give us a starting point. Because chart wise, I'm going to try to limit it basically to uh, the
Yeah.
eclipse. We're going to be talking about this Aries eclipse in December.
And
We'll
for
talk about it again
Zooms,
in March as well. Might even have a better idea
and for
what it might
Zooms,
mean then. Yeah.
for
Okay.
Zoom meetings, you might want to sign up with the Big Apple there in New York City, as well as to try to sign up with the astrologers in London to get in on their Zooms also. Not to mention, like I mentioned, in Perth, Australia, they seem to have an active group there that's online.
Yeah. I've actually done I've been on some of theirs. I haven't been on the New York one yet, but I've been on some of the Zooms from some of the other groups around the country, and um did one recently with Australia on Kelly Hunter and the Black and Lilith and her 4 manifestations.
Yeah, for some
yeah.
reason, the astrologers in Montreal have folded up.
But there's tons on Meetup, and all the NCGRs have local groups, and there's tons. Hey, I just wanted to say, Jim, I like the idea of also presenting a link to an article in the Meetup link.
Yeah.
And that way people that are newer to astrology have something to read and digest, and it might not be so
Okay. Yeah.
I know a lot of newer people to this. Astrology is a huge, intense, in-depth academic field, and not everybody realizes that after they've figured out their moon sign, right? But having an article to really digest might be helpful for people, and then I think we all enjoy it too.
Okay, I'll start trying to look for them. So Katharina, if you find any, feel free to send that link out to everybody.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Well, I'll send it to you, and I can post it on the Facebook page.
Yeah,
Not
post it there too.
on Facebook, but I mean, or send it to you. So for the next meetup, we might have
Yeah.
something to digest, because it's really
Yeah, because it'll be nice to have something of that nature to talk about, so we can all. It generates more of an open discussion and gets more thoughts and opinions into it.
Yeah.
And a number of you were big on Sabian symbols, so to check Martin Goldsmith from Santa Fe, his book, The Zodiac by Degrees.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'd say that's the latest update to the Sabians. And he has about 3 or 4 other books where, if you're impressed by Dane Rudhyar, it seems like book by book that Goldsmith has replaced Rudhyar, I would say.
Okay, let me look. So another one is Inside Degrees by Elias Lonsdale. He has a system as well. And his symbol for the first degree of Aries is a man repairing and extending a stone wall in the spring.
Say it again, Jim. I couldn't hear you.
A man repairing and extending a stone wall in the spring.
A man repairing a wall, building a wall.
Repairing and extending a stone wall in the spring.
What's that degree for?
0 Aries, first degree of Aries.
Okay.
Now, his book, he numbers the degrees 1 to 30.
Yeah.
Not 0 to 29.
Yeah.
So you just have to make that mental adjustment. That's it. Some of them that do degree symbols go from 0 to 29. Some go 1 to 30. You just have to make you can tell when you get, if the first degree is 1, then that's 0 Aries. Yeah, so you just have to, you kind of figure that part out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've got several books. I will try to collect them and see what the different symbols are. And we can look and see, compare symbols.
Compare symbols.
Okay, everybody.
Yeah, that's good.
Thank you for joining us. Thank you for sticking around. Thank you for your contributions. And if you have any requests, suggestions, whatever's, Connie, if you want to talk some more about Sero series and such, drop me an email.
Thank you.
Darn, that it looks like you've got a nice headpiece on there.
Oh, me? Oh, I'm staying temporarily, and it's a deer head that I covered up because it's my landlord's and I can't take it down.
Oh,
So,
Thank
yeah.
you.
well, that's a nice approach. Yes,
Yeah.
that's nice. Thank you. Yes, it would
like the
it would be
topic.
really strange to see horns coming out of your head.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that would have been weird. But I just wanted to pop on to say I've really enjoyed listening. I was kind of doing a little bit of housework and
Yeah,
just really
that's-
taking it all in. It was really nice.
Those were great
Thank
topics
you.
and charts that we looked at. Thank you, Cornelia,
Yeah.
and everybody, for suggesting the charts that
Yes.
we looked at. The up and coming solstice in December, Connie
Thank you.
and Cornelia, and we had some really important charts and ideas to look at. So thank you so much for doing that.
Yeah.
Okay,
All right.
everybody, I thank you very much. We're
Bye.
going to,
Bye.
I can find the record
Bye.
button. There it is.
Thanks.
Stop recording.